So in this video, we're actually going to be exploring both HTML and CSS within the same video. So let's begin. Well, let me introduce myself. I am Isaac, and I am the CEO of Obsidian ROV. And so in this video, I'm going to be talking about grouping things together by way of HTML and CSS. And I was using this as a reference. W3 Schools is a good reference. So yeah. Basically, what we want to do in this video is I want to teach you first how to actually use CSS in a website. This is our website. I'm gonna open up the tutorial website that I'm using right now. Your tutorial, so that's there. Now I'm just gonna drag that into the browser. I'll minimize this for later use. Okay. And so I'm gonna actually start doing some really nice stuff. And the way I do it, the first way you use CSS in a web page, and I'm assuming you guys know what CSS is, but I'll just give you a very brief breakdown right here. CSS is a way that you can style your pages to make them look nice and to change the layout and stuff. So it's a very simple language, and it's very similar to HTML, and so I would recommend that you know HTML before doing CSS. And the way we do this is the style tag in the header, right? And so basically we're going to keep all our CSS code here, and to indicate that I'm going to use a CSS comment. And the way the syntax for CSS comments, they're much different from HTML comments like this. This is going to be similar to some of your languages like Java and JavaScript, which is pretty nice. And the way you do this is by having a slash, // and then you have this little thing, and then another of these little things, I think they're asterisks, and then you close it with the opposite side, like that. Okay, so now it can be either multi-line or single line. In CSS, it doesn't really matter. And so now what I'm going to actually do is I am going to type that the syntax, or actually this is where the CSS will go. And yeah, that's where it'll go. So I will do a basic demonstration of CSS right here. And the way I'll do that is I'll say for paragraph tags, of course we know that p tags are paragraphs. So I'm going to have an opening curly bracket, and inside this I'm going to say color, or background color is going to be red. I'm going to do that. And while it does work, it doesn't look very aesthetically pleasing, such as it does not match our Obsidian ROV page here. And by the end of the series, you will be able to create something like this in whatever you'd like. And so we can do a bunch more stuff than change the background color. We can do things like make all the text aligned to center. And now that the background is red, we could make the text white by way of the or not text align, rather color. And I'll make this not white. White is not a good color. I'll make this green. And of course, we're going to be exploring colors more in later videos. However, what I want to talk about today is making individual things, grouping them. So say I wanted only PVC frame to be colored. And the way I do that is I assign a special ID to it. And there are two main ways of grouping in HTML, and that is through ideas and by classes. So I'll assign li an ID within the opening li tag. So I'll say ID, one space, and I'll set that equal to some string. And you should have it a relevant string. It doesn't really matter, I guess, but you want it to be so that you can read it later. So I will say PVC frame. Cool. And so as you can see, nothing's gonna happen unless we actually apply some CSS to it. And the way we do that is by way of the hashtag. Some of you guys may know hashtags from like social media and stuff. However, we use it a lot. It's a key used a lot in programming, and I don't even think hashtag is the correct way to say it. I'm not sure. You guys can comment down, or I can Google it later. Googling is probably the most preferred method. And I will say hashtag I'll say hashtag PVC frame, and I want to spell it exactly as it is. And as you can see, my Sublime text changed color because it matches and corresponds with this right here. And I will make PVC frame, and the properties I will add to it, I will make it, let's see, I want it to be aligned center. Oh, it's gonna look odd, and I want its, okay, I'll introduce something to you called font family, font-family, and font family is going to be basically essentially your fonts, right? And this are going to be things like sans or serif, right? Serif. So if I do that, it's going to center. It's going to change it to serif. I think it's already on serif, so I can say sans serif. There. As you can see, it has changed, right? But what if some browsers, especially Internet Explorer, trust me, Internet Explorer is a web designer's worst opponents. However, we still have to make things so that we can counter that, so we can circumvent, and we can include fonts or font families in order of precedence is the way we want them. For example, if sans serif doesn't work, we can say comma. We can say no, it doesn't exist. What's a good one? Yeah, Verdana. And if Verdana doesn't exist in the browser, we can say, what's another comments? Okay, Arial. And we can refresh. But since sans serif does exist, or Chrome knows what this is, we are identified, or we can see the sans serif text here. And that I think is really cool. And I'm going to be talking about classes now. This is going to be quite the video, so have a drink. I have a drink of my own. That's beside. Alright. So I will talk about classes right now. What's the special about IDs is that they can you can only have PVC frame for one tag. You cannot have it in this next LI tag. You can't have it in this next one. You can't have it in the P tag. You can only have it for one specific tag or for one specific body of text. However, with classes, you can do it with multiple ones, and I'll show you that through an actual example. So class is equal to other info, and then I'll say class equals other info. And I can just go to a paragraph tag and say class is equal to other info. And as you can see, nothing has happened in our web page. However, because we need to do some styling with it. And the syntax you use for classes in CSS is a dot, right? And then we will say the name of our class, which is dot or other info. And then of course we're gonna have our curly braces, and then we'll insert our things here. So we're obviously going to have our property going first, such as text line, font family, color, text line, background color. And if you're not exactly sure what these are, I don't know if I'm going to make another video on them, because you can use Google yourself. But yeah, I want other info. I want it to be let's see. I want the font of it, the font family. Font-family. I want it to be Dana, Arial, Times exist. I don't even know if you can. Oh, you can do that. Okay. And then I want it to be sans serif, and there. I will refresh the page, and as you can see, everything that has been identified with other info has changed, even such that intelligent thinking is changed, as you can see right here. And I'll just go back to default, and I'll do that. And so now I will be talking about divs and spans, and I promise you this is going to be the last part of the video, and you can start doing cool stuff on your own, which I recommend. I'm going to actually have homework at the end of this video, so stay tuned. So when you use divs and spans, you're organizing data so that you can apply everything logically. As you can see here, it's not logical to have things to be applied to number 2 and number 3 and the single paragraph right here. It doesn't make sense. However, with divs, we can have something applied to one property and we can apply it to all parts of a div. And if that doesn't make sense, I'll do an example right now. And say we want this list, this list right here. What we'd have to do now is we'd have to make a div if we want to group it. This is, I think, a division, but everybody calls it a div. So there we go. And everything now, though this text now, is enclosed within this div. And if we want it to be modified with CSS or styled, we'd have to use an ID or a class. I generally use both depending on what it is, but since this is a list that I want specific or isolated from everything else, I'll use an ID. And I'll set the IV equal to parts, right? And then I will do hashtag parts, right? And then of course curly braces, and then I want its font size to be font size. Let me explain that. Font size is basically your font size in pixels, so this shouldn't be anything new. I would like it to be 18 pixels, or actually 26 pixels. As you can see, everything has been affected. And last part is span. Span is for a little less or more specific actually. It's usually only for a few words. So for example, if I wanted to do intelligent thinking in one, I could use span spam. I can close this within a span, and then assign some ID for it. However, I don't see any use for it now, so I will not do that. And I have a homework assignment for you guys. Okay, so your homework assignment is to make a website, a website that is of your choice. It could be some recommendations you can do, or making a website about yourself, maybe some type of resume. And you should use some of the CSS and some of the HTML tags that I've discussed. Now, this is pretty fun, so I will see you in the next one. See ya.